Hello, welcome to the Ear Wiggle. Today I am going to be showing you how to feed some kittens who are a little bit, well, a lot undersized and underweight. They're the runts of their litter, but also showing how to feed with a syringe because these kittens will not eat on their own and they do not want to take a bottle. So these kittens are very, very tiny. They're about half the size that they should be. And so we're trying to give them a lot of high calorie food to make sure that they get everything they need so that they can put on some weight and catch up and start to grow. So what I've got so far, I have their formula warming up in a cup of hot water. I've got the syringe to feed them with, and this is a small syringe. It fits about 1 ml of food. And you want a small one like this to fit in their mouth because these kittens are tiny. They are about the same size as that 2-week-old kitten in the previous video. If you watch where I show how to bottle feed, they're about his size, but they're 5 weeks old. So they should be a much, much bigger. So anything bigger than this is going to be hard to fit in their mouth. Also, when you feed them, you don't want to accidentally choke them by giving them too much food. And also, I'd like to point out, this is not a method for tiny kittens. If you have small kittens that are like a few days old or a couple weeks old, this is not a good method to use because you could choke the kittens. These kittens are much, much older, and they are able to take not only the canned food, but they can handle being fed with a syringe. But like I said, younger kittens you should not feed with a syringe if at all possible, because there's a very high chance that they will choke and choke on the formula. Even if it's just formula, though, they can choke. They need to be able to nurse. Otherwise, you put the food in their mouth, they don't know what to do with it, and they choke, and you can lose the kitten. We're going to use a small spoon. I use these small children's spoons that you can get at any store that sells children's supplies. I use these only for the cats, and that's how I tell them apart. We're going to use this to mash up the food. You're going to want baby wipes. This is a very messy procedure, so you're going to want something like these. I have these unscented baby wipes, so you can get all the food out of their fur. And of course, you'll want lots of tissues so you can wipe them off in between. So I just need to grab one more thing, and then we can get started. So this is a bag of formula, dry formula. We're going to be adding a little bit of this to the food to just make it a little bit higher calorie. So this is a can cover for the cat food, and this is a fresh can of cat food. I'm going to see if the camera will focus. Oh, good. Okay. So this is mother and baby cat food. This is going to be higher calorie than regular canned cat food. And if you can get this, this is really good to use. If you can't get, and this is like a pate kind of consistency, if you can't get this brand, or if you can't get kitten food, that's okay. Use what you can get. You're going to want a pate, and that's the most important thing because you can't get the chunks into the syringe, so you don't want to use chunky cat food. So what I do first is I measure out some of this pate. I'm going to stick it in here. About that much for these. There's 2 kittens. I'm going to be demonstrating this with one. You can see how this is already very soft and smooth. And I'm going to go ahead and put this lid on here so that we can save the rest in the refrigerator. Canned food lasts about a day in the fridge. And this will get used up in a day. This is about as they'll eat about a can of food a day between the 2 of them. Although they don't eat the whole thing, as you'll see, because you always want to make a little bit more than you need. Because when you go to pull this up through this with the syringe, if there's not a lot of food in here, you'll be pulling up a lot of air. And when you've got thin cats that you're trying to fatten up, the last thing they need in their stomach is a bunch of useless air. So go ahead and just mash this up with the back of the spoon. And what this does is it will take this from that kind of grainy consistency to a very smooth, I guess more, paste-like consistency. You want to get this as smooth as possible. This already started out pretty smooth, okay? So this was a really good cat food. Some of the other brands that I've used, the little individual like pieces and grains of the pate were chunkier, and so this step was very, very important for those. But I'm still doing it with this just to make sure. You don't want any big pieces because they'll clog up the syringe and just frustrate you, because you'll have to keep moving the syringe to a new spot to get new food, and it just... And also, I'd like to point out, the syringe does not have a needle. You do not want that kind of syringe. These are just the syringe, just the plastic part. Okay. Alright, so that's a little bit smoother. Like I said, this one started out pretty smooth already. Other types of pate cat food might be chunkier. This is a pretty good smooth one. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of dry formula. Remember, we're trying to get the calories up. And this is for one feeding, by the way. You can't really mix this ahead, because even if you mix it ahead and put it in the fridge, you have to keep heating it. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that with like formula and cat food. You don't want to heat it and cool it down, heat it and cool it down. That's not good. So I'm just adding a little bit of extra formula to this to boost the calories. And I'm just going to mix that in. Alright, let's scrape this down. Alright, and then we're going to take this milk that's been warmed. The end of this nipple got chewed off by a kitten a long time ago. And I still use this bottle for two reasons. One is that we can do this real easy, and this is a very convenient way to warm up the milk, so that's okay. The other reason is because that hole is just big enough to fit the syringe. So if I have kittens that I need to give milk with the syringe, this is perfect, because I can then invert it, fill the syringe, and feed them. And that has worked very well. So I keep a hold of this bottle. So you're going to put quite a bit of milk in there. We want this to end up like a gravy. And also, by the way, the reason I warm this milk first is because if this cat food, this can here, when I put this in the fridge, it's going to be cold. And kittens don't really like to be fed cold food. So if this food were cold and we put the warm milk in there, it'll get the food up to a much warmer temperature to where it won't bother them to eat it. So that's why we warm it. Pretty much the only step in this that you could do ahead of time really would be to mash up the food. You could, in theory, mash all that cat food in a larger bowl maybe, and then store that in the fridge, and then just warm it up in small quantities like this. But this is a very time-consuming process, but it's worth it if the kittens make it. So you always want to do whatever you can. And at 5 weeks, these kittens really should be eating on their own, but they're not yet. So once they start eating on their own, this will be a little bit easier. You know, they can probably go overnight feeding themselves maybe, and then just do feedings during the day. There's a lot of different things that you can do once they start eating on their own. What I'm doing here is scraping to see how thick it is. You can see how it's slowly coming together to fill that space. So when I scrape, it's moving very slow. I want this to be moving a little bit faster. This should be kind of like a gravy. Just gonna mix this and we'll check. Okay, that's much better. See how the gap is closing quickly? You want it somewhere in this vicinity. I'm just going to add a little more anyway. And we'll move this out of the way. Making sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. Alright, so that was really time consuming. I wanted to make sure I explained everything so it's very clear. We're going to go ahead and bring in the little kitten now. And I will show you how I do this. I'm going to get a couple of tissues ready first of all, because I know that I will need to wipe off his chin. Alright, so there's that. Alright, this is the kitten, okay? His name is Cheez-It. There's his little face and his little belly. He was extremely bony when he came in. He feels like he's starting to put on a little bit of weight to where he's not nearly as bony as he was. He's a very good kitten, but you can see, look how tiny this kitten is. This is my hand. He's smaller I mean, the whole thing, this is 5 weeks. He should be at least double this size. So we think he might be the runt of the litter. We're not sure. And he was being fed by his mama. So he had the best, chance. Oh, watch out, baby. Watch out. We don't know why he's so small. So basically what I do is I take this, like I showed you, I fill it up all the way. Then I scrape the end off here on the side of the bowl, and that way there's less gunk getting on the kitten's face. And then gently, I'm hoping you can see this. Maybe he's so small. I know, baby, I know. Here, you can have a pedestal. Ow, don't bite me. Here you go. Okay, so we'll put this here. Why don't we put this down? Okay. And then we just gently lift the head and put this in and just slowly, you see how you might not be able to tell, but he's moving his jaw. He's trying to bite the syringe because he's hungry. So you slowly push the food in, and it's going to drip. See? It drips, and it makes a big mess. And they will, of course, step in it the moment it drips. So when you're done with this, you're going to have to wash their face, the bottom of their feet, everything. It's a very messy process. But, whoops, watch out, baby. And you want to put the food in slowly so that you don't lose most of it by him spitting it out. Hold on, let me move all this. Okay, so now that you've seen that up close, I'm going to do it down here. It's a little bit easier for me and the kitten, I think. I'm just going to keep filling the syringe. And this food is really smooth. It's going in the syringe real easy. It's much, much better than the other type of pate. But, alright, let's go, baby. Okay, so you want to go real slow. And if the kitten starts pushing away or acting like they're trying to see how he's squishing his face away from me, let him go. He might be having, like, needing to breathe or something. There might be some reason why he's doing that. So don't ever force. You never want to force because you could choke them. So again, let's, oh, look at your face. See all that mess on his face? Gotta get it. Okay. Let's show you again. We lift his face just a little bit. Come on, baby. There. See, he's ready for it. He opens his mouth. And they kind of let you know when they're done. They'll start, pause for a second so you can breathe. They'll start pulling away. They'll start, trying to, they won't open their mouth for the syringe. They'll start acting like they're done. They're just, and at that point you can start slowing down. You'll want to check their belly and make sure that you can feel like their belly isn't empty. And that's very important too, because sometimes they'll want to stop because maybe the process is a little uncomfortable or they don't know what's going on, but they haven't been fed enough, and you might have to continue to feed them until you can tell that they've had something in their belly. His belly is not, it is completely empty still. So, and this, even though they're 5 weeks old, they get fed every 3 hours. So they're getting fed at the same rate as a 2 or 3 week old kitten. And they are definitely hungry after 3 hours, even though they are getting extra strong formula and kitten food. They are still hungry in 3 hours. For comparison, most 5 week old kittens can go 4 or 5 hours without being fed. So, well, without a formula or nursing. They'll eat food and stuff in between. And of course they're not doing that, so. Come on, baby. Yeah. And he's tired of this procedure. He does not like this, but he's hungry, so. Come on, baby. Alright. Let's get this. And whenever you feed like this, you're going to want to lay down like a towel like I have or something, because as you can see, this is a huge mess. And the food is dripping just outside the tissue, because that's exactly what's going to happen. So just be prepared for that. And no, baby, don't walk off. And I want to show you something. So since this is starting to get low, can you see that little airway that's formed? Like it starts sucking up air. What you can do when that happens is take something like this, maybe. Let's see if this will work. Come back, baby. And tilt the bowl like this and put the tissue under it. Now you've got this little pool to draw from. And now you won't see it sucking up air down at the tip. Okay, so you got to do something to prevent that from sucking in air, because again, these kittens are already underweight. The last thing they need is for their food to be full of air. There you go, baby. And this little cheese is very, very good. aren't you? Yeah. And when I first got them, I've only had them a few days, and when I first got them, they slept the first entire day. They were so weak, they just kind of slept, and then the next day I saw them playing in their playpen. So if I can, I'll try to get that footage. I'll try to attach that footage. It was really cute. So they're definitely, I don't know if, like, we never know how this is going to turn out. You never know when a kitten is, this small and thin. You know, the sad thing is you don't know if they're going to make it or not. The only thing you could do is do the best you can. But it is encouraging to see that they went from being lethargic and everything to playing in their crate. So that's a good sign. Uh-oh. You need a break? You need a break? Look at you. You're making a huge mess. Okay. Come here, baby. Come on. Open up. I think he's getting to the point where he's feeling done. Okay. So, because he's starting to spit it out and stuff. So, okay. All right. Let's give you a break. And then what I need to do is feed his litter meat. Let's roll all this up. But first, let's check. Yeah, I can feel his belly now. Let's see underneath. You can see his little belly sticks out now a little bit. That's a good sign. And he's also not crying anymore. You could hear him crying when I first picked him up, and now he's feeling better because he's got food in him. So we're going to wipe him off. You want to get a tissue and look at this. You want to clean his face really, really good first with the tissue to get off as much food as possible, okay? And then you take out a baby wipe. Where you going? Where you going, buddy? Stay here. Okay. You take the baby wipe, and you're gonna need to scrub the food out of his chin and whiskers and face, and also don't forget their feet and stuff because they probably stepped in the formula. If you don't do this, the food will get caked on. They can get, it could irritate their skin. You'll get bugs. The last thing you need is bugs crawling on the kittens trying to get to the food. And they'll smell bad and stuff. It's just nasty. I know you hate this. I know. This is terrible. Okay, so we got his little face clean. That's pretty good. Now we're going to check the bottoms of his feet. Yeah. Okay, get this one. Wait, cheese it. Okay. Yeah. Here you go, baby, huh? There we go. And let's check the back feet. Oh, those look good. Okay, baby. Say hi. That's good. Okay, so he's doing much better. He's been washed and he's been fed. And the one thing is, at this age, they were pooping and everything on their own. So that's why I didn't show, stimulating him to pee and everything, because he's doing that on his own. So that part's good. So all we really have to focus on with him is the feeding. But you can see how this took much longer than just giving him a bottle. But hopefully he will make it. He has, like I said, seemed to put on a little bit of weight, where, when I first got him, he was just a skeleton. And now when I pet him, I don't feel the bones immediately. So, that's a good sign that he is putting on some weight and the food is doing something. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. And if you have any questions, or if you have any suggestions, please leave them down below. And thank you for watching. Have a great day, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.